Hey, readers and writers.
Welcome to episode 103 of Read and Write, where we're going to talk about
books that became more.
Ooh. In case we haven't met before, I'm Deb.
And I'm Jocelyn, and this is our podcast about what we're reading,
what we're writing,
and everything in between.
And we mean everything.
Yes, we do. Speaking of everything in between, what have you been up to lately?
Well, it's been kind of a hodgepodge week, but yesterday I went on, I guess I should back up. This last week I went on a decluttering mission of the house.
Oh, that sounds really refreshing.
I know. The worst place in the house was our dining room / my husband's new office. Because our house is so small, we don't actually have a place for him to be office. So his office is just that dining room, which is fine. I mean, we never used it as a dining room anyways. It was always just this table in our library.
Yep.
So it was funny. It was in the middle of his workday. He's on a call, and I'm like, damn it, there's too many knickknacks up there. So I'm up there while he's on a call, like taking things off of shelves and putting them in boxes and taking the boxes to the attic. Oh my God, I don't know what the people on his call thought was going on.
I love this. It's very like manic Mary Poppins energy.
This is what happens when I'm stuck in a house for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I know. It's been so long, hasn't it?
I know. It's wearing on my sanity. I thought I was an introvert. Yeah. I mean, yes, I am an introvert, but I don't think I'm a hermit. I don't think I was made to be a hermit.
You haven't leveled up to that point.
No, definitely not.
Hermit status.
Okay, so anyways, I'm taking off all the knickknacks off our big white library shelves, and I'm like, this would be a great spot for plants. So then I promptly went on the internet and bought 8 baby plants. And then I realized I only have 2 empty pots. So then I had to go on Amazon and I bought 6 pots.
Perfect. Now you're prepared.
I know. The pots were way more expensive than the plants.
Yes, they are. It's really frustrating. I'm actually about to throw away some plants that I have neglected to death and free up some pot space for some new plants. There's a cute shop down the street from us in our new neighborhood that we moved to in the middle of a pandemic. And so we haven't really been able to explore too much for obvious reasons. So we haven't been to this shop yet, but it's called Sarah's Pets and Plants.
Ooh.
And it just seems so cute and cool. And Sarah of the title seems like a very cool person. So I'm hopefully going to wander down that way in the next week or two and see what kind of houseplants she has, so I can repopulate my freed up pots with living plants, and hopefully they'll stay alive for a bit longer.
That'd be nice. Until basically quarantine hit, I was a plant killer. I could grow things outside. I'm okay with outside. It's just inside I wasn't very good about the watering and the light and stuff.
Yeah, I have a hard time with it too. I need very simple, basic care and feeding instructions for plants. Otherwise, I just get I don't know, it just becomes too complicated for me if I have to have a calendar chart of when to water and rotate plants. That's a little too much for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. We have a lot of windows, but not a lot of light. The house isn't situated in a place that gets a lot of light. Mm-hmm. So I've actually invested in a grow light.
Oh.
Yeah, and I've got this little baby fig. I'm so proud of it. It's actually sprouting new leaves. I feel yes, I'm taking care of things. And I don't know if that's false confidence and these 8 little baby plants are going to die on me now. But I am taking care of a dwarf fig plant like a boss.
I mean, that seems like a big achievement. In my mind, figs, they make food. Therefore, they're a higher level of plant. And if you can keep one alive, that's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. I don't think it's actually going to produce figs, though. I think it's solely ornamental.
Well, throw it out. Why are you bothering?
No, the new leaves are so glossy and green and pretty.
Oh, like poison ivy is?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that. That's something that I go around, I'm paranoid about poison ivy. Especially with the kids outside.
Oh, definitely.
Before we had some landscaping done a couple of years ago, I would go around and investigate all these little plants that were growing in my yard. Is this poison ivy?
That's where I'm at right now. Yeah, like, because this is a new house and we actually have a yard, I'm, like, going around looking in all the crevices to see, like, what weeds we have.
This was the
and,
first
like,
house we
them.
actually had, like, our yard, that it wasn't, like, a landlord situation. So, yeah, I was obsessive about that.
Yeah, it's a new world, basically, when you get to that, when you have to, like, identify the weeds and figure out how to kill them all, or, like, which ones are good weeds and, like, things like that. It's fun, but it's an effort. You have to put an effort in.
You know, the previous owner did not put an effort in, though. Her opinion of gardening was just, like, throwing out, like, wildflower seeds, which was great, but that meant our yard was a crazy mess.
Yes. Yeah, there's, like, no rhyme or reason to it.
Right. We actually heard from a couple neighbors, like, our neighborhood is, like, this quiet, like, retirement kind of neighborhood, and people walk a lot. And we would hear from the people walking down, like, we heard, like, our house apparently was the eyesore of the neighborhood.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Super harsh neighbors. Wow.
Well, I guess it's, well, I don't think we're the eyesore anymore, but because we take our kids on walks now, and everybody is really, like, anal about their yard.
Yeah.
Like, it's all, like, immaculately groomed and landscaped, and you know what? We actually might still be the eyesore of the neighborhood, just compared to their level of maintenance.
Yeah, well, you know, they have the time.
They do. They only have small dogs to care for.
Right.
So what's going on in your life?
Well, I have a new obsession that doesn't really have anything to do with books or writing, but in an interesting way, it does have something to do with storytelling.
Okay.
I bought myself an Irish flute.
Ooh.
And I'm really excited about it. I played flute in high school, classical flute, just like concert C flute that everybody, like, knows when they think of a flute. And I haven't really played seriously since high school. So it's been, you know, like about 15 years. And I miss being musical. I am a very musical person. My husband's really musical. My whole family is musical. And I wanted to find a way to, like, re-engage with that part of me. And I've been on this kick where it's like, well, what do I already kind of know that I can build on that's not going to be too challenging for me and won't frustrate me so much that I just give up? And so I recently saw a video of someone playing an Irish flute, and I was like, why have I never thought to try Irish flute? I listened to all kinds of different Irish Celtic music my whole life. My family's really Irish. And so I decided to just, like, get into it, and it's a wild world, I have to tell you. It is so involved. There's so much going on. Irish flutes are way different than concert flutes, than classical flutes. They're in a different key. They have slightly different fingerings. They're built differently. They're built out of a different material. You play, like, the technique that you play them is slightly different. Actually, it's a lot different. And but because I already know how to play flute, I kind of understand the mechanics. Okay. And I do actually kind of understand the fingerings because it's the same as a tin whistle. So if you ever played a penny whistle or a tin whistle, it's kind of, if you played a D one, it's
my only experience with a sort of flute instrument is, like, the recorder they gave us in 6th grade.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, there's plenty of those kicking around my house growing up too. So, like, it's been really nice because I'm learning something new. I'm diving into this new world, but it also feels really familiar, and it's kind of reconnecting pathways in my brain that I haven't exercised in a long time, and it feels great. I have to stop myself from playing every day because it physically hurts my hands.
Oh my goodness. Because you
don't
have calluses anymore?
Cramp. Well, the holes are so much further apart on an Irish flute.
So it hurts, like, the webbing of your hands.
Yeah, I have to, like, stretch my fingers, and I have to, like, bend my hand in a way that I didn't necessarily have to with my old flute. And, like, so I had to, it's wild, and I just have to, like, force myself to stop, or else I'm in a lot of physical pain. But I love it. I'm like super obsessed. I'm just like watching all these Irish flute videos on YouTube, and yeah, I'm really pumped about it. And Irish music is a form of storytelling. There's a long tradition of that. So it's been kind of cool to dig into that history and explore that a little bit. So that's basically been me.
You realize now you're going to have to give me an audio clip of you playing the Irish flute so we can attach it to the end of an episode somewhere down the road.
No one wants to.
No, even if it's horrible, that would be more awesome because it'd be like a blooper reel.
Oh my. It'll just be me being like. Okay, I'll learn a special song just for you, Deb, and I'll record it and I'll send it over to you. So
I feel so special.
You should, because I would not do that for many people at all. So listeners can look forward to that in about 5 years. Yep, it's gonna take a while. Oh man! But speaking of like storytelling in different formats. Let's get into our topic, books that became more.
Yeah, books that well, I don't want to say graduate, because I think I like books, and I don't want to diss them in any way, but I guess books that, I don't know, grew up to be movies or TV shows.
Yeah. So I do have like a question for you to kick this off.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a good adaptation of a book? Do you have like a philosophy
I
around
actually,
this?
when I was writing down questions to think of and just my own preferences and that, I actually have thought of this. What I think makes a good adaptation is something that builds on the book but doesn't take anything away. Like,
yes.
To do some very classic examples, some of the big name ones like Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
It was done by a fan, so they were more or less faithful to the original, but they added so much more, like, I don't know, ambiance almost to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that did a good job, and that's what I think a good adaptation is an adaptation that adds more levels to the world building that you might not have seen in books, because, like, the author was trying to pare down, or they got lost in the editing or something. For whatever reason, so that just adds more layers of nuance on top of the source material that's already there, and doesn't take anything away, and doesn't change anything that is I hate. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I feel that a good adaptation is true to the spirit of the source material and helps that spirit flourish.
Right.
Because especially if you're talking about going from a written medium to a visual medium, you have so much. I'm not going to say so much more to play with, maybe, but
you have another sense to play with. Like, the eyes can take in a little detail that it might take you a paragraph to describe, but you can just see it in flashing, and you can add a lot more of those.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And of course, to go back to my favorite, having a good score or a good soundtrack can really help. So you have more to play with. So
as long as they don't change any major like character or plot device, if they don't change anything major, they can change little things and I'll probably be okay with it. But if they change something major that was like, whoa, no, that's not how that happened. Like, as long as it doesn't make me do that, then that's generally a good adaptation.
Are there any adaptations that you can think of that completely missed the mark that you really hate?
Yes. I can think of one that I hate, which is Ender's Game.
Oh, okay. You know what? I haven't even read the book, and I hated that movie.
I have a special personal connection to the book. It was the first book. Like, I was, 9 years old, and it was summer vacation, and I had just moved to a new place. I didn't know anybody, and my dad just took this book off his shelf and said, here, read this and tell me about it. And it was Ender's. It was technically Ender's War because it was Ender's Game and the second book all combined in one volume.
Okay.
And for a while, that's how I thought the book was. I didn't realize they were actually two books. But, so I have this copy of this book somewhere still, and I read it so much, like, the hardcover binding is falling off of it.
Oh,
it was my favorite. It probably still is my favorite book, just for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah.
So having something that was so personal and beloved be butchered
Yeah.
was just, we didn't walk out of the theater, but I wanted to. Like, if my husband had been more willing to walk out of the theater, I definitely would have.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that, actually, because I have a very similar experience with The Dark is Rising.
Okay.
So The Dark is Rising cycle, I think it's referred to as a cycle, by Susan Cooper. I think it came out in like the 70s, 60s. I don't know, but it's this fantasy, kind of like YA middle grade fantasy series that is built on Arthurian legend. And I was obsessed with this the entire series in middle school, and I keep meaning to go back and read it. But they adapted the Dark is Rising book in the series. It's a series of 5 books, and one of them is titled The Dark is Rising. They adapted the Dark is Rising book in the series, and they did a horrible job. They just completely botched it. It really didn't stay true to the spirit of the series. It was kind of trying to capitalize off of that big boom in popularity that fantasy YA books got. I think, like, kind of after Harry Potter really blew up, especially the movies, they were trying to just snatch up all of these different properties,
like
the
time
Narnia
of the Hunger
books.
Games.
Yeah. So they tried with The Dark is Rising as well, and it just fell so flat, and it was so disappointing for me. Also because of, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but also nostalgia reasons.
Do you know who wrote the screenplay? Was it the author? Was the author connected to the project at all?
I don't know anything actually about the movie. I don't even remember who directed it. I don't know who wrote it. I honestly don't even remember who starred in it. Actually, I think it was someone who was also in the Hunger Games. Because, I mean, I saw it. I hated it. I backed away quickly. Like, I didn't want to investigate or anything.
Right.
I was just so annoyed. So, yeah, I mean, death to that film. I'll just reread the books again. But I've had that experience multiple times where, like, the source material has had a personal impact on me, and then the adaptation has fallen short. And that's probably, that is based on my relationship with the source material.
I think a lot of it has to do with your own personal perception. Like, some of the things that I dislike about some adaptations is because that's not the way my brain saw it happening.
Right. Yeah.
Which is no one's fault, but it's just it doesn't match the image that was in my head.
Exactly. Yeah. A good example of this for me is the adaptation of Ghost Story by Peter Straub, which it's a horror book. The adaptation is Fred Astaire's last film role.
Okay.
And so that makes it kind of interesting. I think it came out in like 1980. But the book takes place in the southern tier region of New York, which is where as you know, where I lived for most of my life, and there in the Finger Lakes. And, you know that region too. And so you have a good idea of what that looks like, what that area looks like. And so as the characters are moving about the area, which they do a lot in this book, the landscape plays a big role in the story.
Right.
You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like.
It's a very distinctive landscape.
Yes, you can understand the gravity of how that geography impacts the story. Well, the movie moves it to just, like, I think somewhere in, like, Massachusetts or some nondescript New England town, which is close but not quite,
right.
Like,
they should have ponied up the money and just filmed in, like, Ithaca or something.
Right? And honestly, it wouldn't have been that difficult because, like, Binghamton is no stranger to film sets and TV sets. I mean, that's where a lot of the Twilight Zone took place. So it's not like they don't have the infrastructure or the ability. So that really that kind of annoyed me. But again, that is a personal feeling of mine, based on my personal experience being from the region. So I guess, all of that aside, it might be unfair. But I mean, there are plenty of adaptations that I just think really failed the source material anyway, that has nothing to do with my personal feelings.
It's like they took something and were like, oh, hey, this is a trendy topic, or this would be really cool if this happened. And then you as the watcher / former reader are like, no, that happened for a reason.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You can't just cut that out.
Right. I mean, I feel like, I know I just keep, like, throwing all of these, I keep throwing a lot out there. I have a lot to mention, but there is this Douglas Preston Lincoln Child book called Relic, and they have this whole series with.
I read that in high school. I loved it.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, it's so much fun.
I have it in my library somewhere. The spine is so creased you can't even see the words anymore.
Their whole Pendergast series is super fun, and it follows this. I think he's like this weird, almost like shamed FBI agent, Pendergast.
It's kind of like if Sherlock was an FBI agent, but
very much
more quirky somehow.
He's like a less charming version of Knives Out, the detective in Knives Out. Yeah, he's like slightly less charming version of him. But they made an adaptation called The Relic in 1997.
I didn't even bother to see that movie.
No, Pendergast isn't even in it as a
character. Oh my god, seriously?
Yeah, he's not even in it.
He's like almost on every page of the book.
Yeah, he's the main character.
I mean, there's some parts of the prologue he's not there, but his name is probably on every other single page of the book, and you cut him as a character?
I know.
Oh my
baffling.
God.
I don't get it.
I'm glad I didn't see the movie now. I'm pissed off now and I didn't even see the movie.
Mm-hmm. It might be a fun movie if you've never read the book, but like the book is such a wild romp of a good time.
I know.
That like you can't help but love it when you read it, and so you're all jazzed up going into the movie, and then you're like, oh, well this isn't what I wanted. Well, okay. What are some adaptations that you liked? I feel like we're being really negative.
I know.
Unless you have more
it's
like
hard
that you want to trash.
You know me. You've heard me say before. The readers, writers, listeners haven't heard me say. But if I know a movie's coming out that's written off a book and I haven't read the book yet, I will not read the book until I've seen the movie or TV show.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you brought this up. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was going to actually ask you about this because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And I think we're different from everybody else.
Really? Well, see, I don't like to have read the book and then have these expectations that will then inevitably be dashed to pieces. And I like the movies / TV shows, whatever it is. I'm just going to say movies, but everybody knows I'm talking about any kind of film.
Sure.
To then like give me like visuals on what the set looks like or what the characters look like. It's nice to have that visual. So I don't want my expectations to be killed, and I like having the extra visual that maybe the author couldn't portray.
Yeah, and you know what else? I feel the same way. And the other reason why I prefer to go in that order as well is that there's always something, or at least in my experience, there's always something new to discover when you read the book. They can't fit
everything into a movie, no.
Yeah, they just can't. And even if they do, they still don't capture the particular ambiance or vibe or tone that the author has injected into their works. So I'm still delighted by the source material even after seeing the adaptation. So I still feel like I get something new out of reading the book, even if I've already watched the movie or TV show. Whereas if I read the book first
and then you're disappointed they didn't include everything.
Yes.
I mean, you understand they're not going to include everything, but it's not a rational feeling. We admit this.
Right.
But we're still disappointed that they didn't include everything.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like not a lot of people are like that. Like a lot of people are more interested in like rushing to read the book. For example, and maybe you were going in this direction, but the Shadow and Bone TV series.
I did want to touch on it. That's the whole reason why we're doing this episode, because that is probably top 5 trilogy for me, and I refuse to watch it. I will not watch this.
Ooh.
Like maybe in a year I might break down and watch it, but I can't bear to see all the things they've effed up about it.
Well, I'm in luck because I haven't gotten around to reading them yet.
Lucky.
So...
Then you can read it, and you're not allowed to tell me about it.
No, I won't, I promise.
I gave my husband permission to watch it because it looks good to him. I'm like, you can watch it, but I can't be in the room. I won't even watch a trailer for it. I'm so obsessive. Like, I love these books. They were a good source of inspiration when I was plotting the story I'm currently working on. Like, I like her tone. She has a really great tone. Jocelyn, you were going to love the tone of this book.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm going to watch the show. At least I'll watch the first season. I haven't started it yet. And then I do actually have the first book on my Kindle. So I will finally dive in because I've read some of her other stuff and I love it.
I know, like, she's so good. Like, some of her short stories are amazing.
Mm-hmm. It just always feels like kind of like candy, but deeper. Yeah, it just...
It feels like she's telling you a folktale that, like, her grandma told her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, like, juicy and entertaining, but also has a lot of weight.
Yes.
And a lot of development. Yeah, I agree.
Well...
So, yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know how that measures up.
No, we'll never know. Maybe in a year we can revisit about how much I either love or hate the Netflix series.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I actually have two that surprised me about how much I enjoyed the TV and movie version of them after having already read the books. One was Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
Oh, okay.
I really liked the book. Have you read it?
You know, I started to read it, and then for some reason I stopped. I think I had a book I was writing a review for that I had to hurry up and read on a schedule. So I've read,
it was an interesting way of writing a book, basically letters and diaries. I mean, it's been done before, but I always like it. So the movie added a depth of detail that you didn't necessarily see in the books, and especially the setting, the house that is the main setting for the movie. The movie did such a good job with. I was like, this is exactly what I was picturing in my head. Which some people might hate it because it wasn't what they were picturing, but it fit the picture in my head, or at least they honored the storyteller enough that it really fit together well.
That's awesome to hear. I don't know if I'm going to go back and pick up the book again. I was enjoying it, but lately I need things that grab me a little, like something more action-y or very plot heavy. So I might not be able to hang with it right now, but I might go ahead and watch the movie because the movie
was fun. It was Cate Blanchett. I love Cate Blanchett.
Right? I know. She's incredible. She like kills everything she does. She's amazing. And she looks good too while she's doing it, always. But yeah, and it always looked good to me. Like I was always interested in seeing it, but I haven't. So I might as well just check that out.
Okay. And the other one, I think you might agree with me on it, is American Gods.
Yeah. I really, first of all, really liked, I'm glad we're bringing up Gaiman because I have more to say about him and adaptations. But I really liked that book.
We read it actually for our book club.
Yes.
Our two-person book club.
Our two-person book club. Well, 3 if you count the cupcake that we would devour from Barnes & Noble. But,
it's a carnivorous book club.
I know. Yeah, it's dangerous. That's why there's only ever really 2 people in it. But yeah, I loved that book, and I thought the TV series absolutely nailed it. It nailed the dark tone. It was nasty, gritty,
and it added another layer of subtlety that the book necessarily didn't touch on. I was annoyed about one fact, that they made his wife come back.
Yeah.
When it was very clear, like in the first 3 chapters, like she was just dead. That was it. She was dead.
Yeah.
It annoyed me they brought her back as a character. I was like, no. But that was the only thing that annoyed me about it. The rest of it,
it's a weird choice.
Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's kind of, I think that happens a lot in TV. The Lovecraft Country TV adaptation kind of did a weird thing with the end. And I loved that book, and I also really loved the TV show. But they made a weird choice around the end. Okay,
I actually, that was a classic case of I didn't finish it. I didn't finish I haven't read the story, and I did not finish the series.
Yeah. I read the book around my wedding when I was really stressed out, and it was just entertaining and escapist enough that it kind of took me out of my own head and allowed me to relax and like recoup.
Weddings suck.
Yeah, oh my God, they're terrible. Please, everybody out there who's not married yet, who wants to get married, do yourself a favor, go small, go chill.
Go to the justice of the peace. I mean, seriously.
Yes. I stressed myself out so badly. I gave myself a nerve problem.
I feel like I had like a personality disorder while the stress of planning a wedding. A wedding that I didn't even want.
Awful. Yeah, right? Like, it just gets so out of control.
I know. My husband and I were like, we're just going to go to the justice of the peace, and we're just gonna, that's all we want. We want something small, just our family. And my mom was like, you're not gonna invite your grandmother?
Oh Lord. Oh God. It's all coming back.
I know.
Well, your wedding was a really beautiful day.
Well, thank you. The stress apparently was worth it.
Yes. But yeah, they did a weird thing at the end of Lovecraft Country, the TV show. That was fine. You know, it was fine for the show, but I found it a strange choice.
So I have a couple questions here. I want to know, what one surprised you? Like, what, did you see something that you didn't know was a book? And then you're like, whoa, that was a book? Now I have to read this book.
The Witcher.
Really?
Actually. Yeah. I was blissfully ignorant of, or perhaps, you know, sadly ignorant
how could you
of
not
all Witcher
know Witcher
materials.
Games?
I don't play video games. I
guess, but wow.
I know. I never played video games. I've never really been even tangential to gaming culture. So even when like big name games come out, like the only time I'll know about them is if my brother is into them, and he is significantly younger than me. So I don't think the Witcher games lined up with his trajectory. And they're mainly on PC, right?
Right.
Like, aren't they? Yeah. So my brother is not a
Xbox. Anyways, but yeah, I played them on the PC.
Yeah, my brother's not a PC gamer, but when I watched the amazing Netflix series,
which by the way, I haven't watched because I loved this games. I don't feel like I can watch the show.
Oh, it's honest to God, it's really good.
Is it good? Okay. So, everybody keeps telling me it's good, but I just have like this fear that it's not going to be good enough.
I know, but I mean, I haven't played the games, and I've only read 1.5 of the books, but so far,
you know my feeling on those books.
Well, yeah. So
for the record, for the listeners, I cannot get into the books. I tried. It's just not my style, and I want to read the books. So Jocelyn suggested a while back that I try the audiobook, which I'm going to do, but haven't done yet.
Yes, I think the audiobook might be helpful because sometimes with weird pacing or narrative structure,
or pages and pages of description.
Yes, yeah, and like sometimes the audio, like having someone read it to you can help you absorb it a little better. Right. Sometimes it totally fails at that, but other times it can click. Mm-hmm. So it's usually like
I know it's a good story because everybody tells me that the show was good, and I know the games are good, so I know the story is good. It's just the writing style just cannot get in my head. It just
which is why I think you might really like the show because it takes
technically
all the
I haven't
things.
Read the books yet.
Right, exactly. And it takes all the good things from the books, like the narrative, characters, things like that, like the plot points, and it puts it into this like highly entertaining fantasy series. It's just like a lot of fun.
Okay.
But I didn't know those were books, and so when I watched the show and became completely enamored, and I was, you know, online looking everything up about it and learning all of these things, I became one of those people that caused the book to be sold out across all platforms, and like they needed to go into a new reprinting for like hundreds of thousands of copies, and I was like going to all these different Barnes and Nobles, like rushing to see if I could just grab one of the books off the shelves. So I have like, I don't have all of the books, but I have a random selection of them because I was just buying the ones I could find as they were coming back into stock. So
if we lived closer together, I'd let you borrow my copies.
Well, no, you'll never get them back. But yeah, The Witcher was definitely one that I was like, oh, that's a book, cool. But then another one, to circle back to Gaiman, was Stardust. And I have a bone to pick. Mm-hmm. I have a really weird relationship. I guess it's not weird, it's just not consistent with Gaiman adaptations. Okay. So I loved the American Gods adaptations. I loved Stardust, the movie. I love Coraline, the movie. I don't like Stardust, the book, at all. Okay. I actually really dislike it. And Coraline, I like the book, but not as much as the movie. And and most of it is because I find Neil Gaiman's tone in both of those books to be really inconsistent and confusing. And the movie kind of in both cases, the movies smoothed the tone out and made it make more sense, made the audience more clear to me. Like, who is this supposed to be for? The movies made that obvious. The book, in both cases, makes it a little murky. I'm not really sure. Is this a kid's book? Is this an adult's book? Like, what's going on?
I haven't read Stardust, which I don't know why I haven't, because I really enjoyed the movie, and I really enjoy him as an author. I did read Coraline, and I think there's something in a preface or at the end that said he wrote the book over like a 10-year period in bits and pieces, so that might be the disjointedness you're seeing.
100%. That makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, because that, with Coraline, that really is more of the case. It feels very disjointed to me. Stardust feels incredibly confusing in terms of tone, because there are parts of it that are just like very childish feeling in like a fun way. You know, you're on this fun fantasy romp, and then it becomes really mature, like both very graphic and sexual, and like gets kind of strange.
I'm definitely gonna have to read this now. Like, I don't know why I hadn't in the first place, but
if you do, I really want to hear what you think.
Good God, the show notes for this episode are like 5 pages long.
I know, yeah. Well, I think this is going to end up being a slightly longer episode than our norm.
Okay, so for me, the ones that surprised me was practical magic.
Oh, that is a really good example of a surprising adaptation. And, you know, I feel like the movie actually isn't true to the spirit of the book, but I love the movie so much, and I actually love the book too, that I have just separated the two entities completely in my brain, because I love them for totally different reasons.
It's so surprising. I didn't know until today when I was researching I was trying to find ones that I might have missed that were like kind of in my head. Like, I know this is an adaptation, but I couldn't remember them. So I was like on these internet lists, and it said Practical Magic. And I'm like, wait, that's a book. And then I immediately went to Amazon and I found out it's actually a 4-book series. And I love
she keeps writing them.
The descriptions of them are so like, that's one of the things I love about fantasy stories. Like, the descriptions for one of the Practical Magic books was that the mother laid down these rules, and the rules were really weird, like no red shoes. And that's something I love about fantasy books, when they have these quirky details they don't explain. It's just that's a fact of life in that universe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that.
So much
richness. They're in my Amazon cart. I haven't checked out yet. I was looking at thrift books, but I couldn't find a good deal on thrift books. So I'm really excited to read it.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. I don't have the 4th one. I've only read Practical Magic.
In fairness, the 4th one is a pre-order right now.
Yes, which I have not bit the bullet on, but I will eventually. I love Alice Hoffman. I snatch up pretty much everything that she writes. She has such an interesting approach to all of her stories, and it's just everything she writes is just so woven through with magic, but
that
magic
amazing.
That feels very...
I don't think I've ever read anything by her. It sounds like something I would really like.
Yes, and she's more literary than you might expect going into it, especially after seeing Practical Magic. Practical Magic, the film, feels almost like a cozy fantasy vibe, but that's not the book at all. The book is darker. The book is a bit more vague. It's more literary. Okay. It's definitely a different tone, so just be ready for that. Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it, but I put them in totally different categories.
Okay. Duly noted.
Yes, so just be prepared for that.
I was thinking about one that I didn't know was a book, was Howls Moving Castle.
I also didn't know that was a book until a few years ago. I just always remember the movie from, as a kid. Yeah. And it was only recently that I realized it was a book, and I keep meaning to pick it up. Have you read it?
I have. My kids love basically all anime, but they especially love Ghibli, the studio. Totoro we're huge fans of Totoro's. Yeah. So we were watching Howl's Moving Castle, and then I don't remember what it was, but I basically probably tooling around on Amazon. I found the book. I'm like, oh my God, it's a book. I bought it. I read it. I love the book so much more than the movie.
Ooh. Oh,
the movie did this,
what a delight.
The movie did the typical thing that Ghibli does where they have a story and they kind of tone it down more for kids and they take out some of the adult parts. And Howl's Moving Castle has this whole layer of stuff that the movie didn't explore. The movie actually changed the ending entirely.
Oh, okay.
The book is like, it's amazing. I love it. Like, probably top 20 books for me, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to get this from my library immediately. This is a really great example of how, you know, you can watch a film first and then watch the book and get a totally different experience and be just as delighted by the book and feel like it's a fresh experience.
It's again, like for how you were saying about practical magic, I kind of feel the same way about Howl's Moving Castle. They are two different entities. Like, Studio Ghibli changed the story enough that they are two different stories now. And I think the book is better. I love Ghibli. I love Ghibli so much, but the book is so good. So good. So satisfyingly good.
Oh, that is exactly what we're all thirsting for, you know? Satisfyingly good. And it's so nice when you get both, you know? You get a movie that kicks ass and you get a book that kicks ass. Like, I think about one of my favorites that falls under this category is the Stepford Wives.
Okay.
I love the Ira Levin book. I'm actually rereading it right now for book club, and it's just so much fun. Like, every time I read it, it's so much fun. And then the, I think it's 1975 adaptation, the first adaptation. The one with Nicole Kidman in it, no one watch that. Nobody consume that wretched piece of filth. But the original adaptation is so good. It's pretty much exactly the book, and it's great. They didn't need to mess with it. It works really well as a film. And I'm just happy to have both. So I'm excited. You know, I'm going to read the book for book club, and then I'm going to have a nice movie night where I rewatch the movie. And it's going to be so pleasant. You know, just this classic horror book about women being turned into robots. It's going to be so pleasant.
One of the ones that I didn't know was a book, The Boys. I did not know The Boys was a graphic novel. So after we watched season 1, I was like, So I went out and got the graphic novels because it was something my husband and I both enjoyed. And we both enjoy graphic novels. And I don't know. I can't get into them. And you think getting into a graphic novel isn't hard, but it feels like the show changed some vital parts about some of the characters that I enjoy more, I guess, then I couldn't get into the graphic novel part of it. Just like some of it was just like, no, that's not how the movie did it, which is a total reverse of what we were saying earlier about how me liking the book first and getting annoyed about that. But I felt like the show was more seamless than me going back to the graphic novels and then having a hard time getting into the graphic novel groove, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's always kind of a bummer when that happens. I kind of had that experience when I watched Crazy Rich Asians. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really fun and, like, you know, just like a good time. And then I picked up the book and I hated the book. The book, to me, it felt like just a shopping list of all of the things these rich people bought. And it didn't have, like, any of the
personalization.
The humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there weren't any like things for me to care about with the characters, even though there are, like, the characters have great plot lines, I think, in the story, you know, and they have good character development. And I was looking forward to, you know, with a book, usually I feel like that gets expanded on. So I was looking forward to digging in deeper, and there are multiple books in the series. But the book actually was condensed. Yeah, no, the book was like, you know, just him listing all of their, you know,
assets.
Yeah, which I get. It's about
that's
rich
the title
people
of the
in Asia, but like it wasn't. That's not a plot. So yeah, I was kind of bummed out. I actually have an interesting adaptation example. It's not a book or well, it is a book. It's not a movie or a TV show or a video game. It's a song.
I'm very curious about this.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the song Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush?
No.
It's bonkers, first of all. Much like the book. If people haven't first of all, if people don't know who Kate Bush is, you are forgiven, but please, this is your homework. Go listen to her. She is off the wall, just a really kind of a strange musician, but I love her. She's an acquired taste, so if you
I recognize the name, I don't think I've ever heard. Actually, actively listen to anything she's done.
Yeah, she was big like in the 70s, 80s, maybe even 90s. But she's just very inventive, very strong personality, very unique voice. Okay. But she did a song called Wuthering Heights, and it's all about Kathy haunting Heathcliff. And it is amazing. It's amazing because it's just like, to me, it really captures the spirit of the book, because I think the book really should be treated more like a comedy. It's really melodramatic. It's really over the top. Everyone's just grouchy and yelling at each other and making stupid decisions. Everyone's insufferable. I love it. It's just a ton of fun when you approach it from that way, like you're watching a reality
I'm always really
TV
depressed
show.
when I watch a version of Wuthering Heights. It's always so depressing.
Yeah, it is depressing. I think that's how most people see it. They see it as like a really depressing novel or story, or some people think it's this great love story, which absolutely no, it's very toxic.
It's very dysfunctional.
It's horrible. But I would love to see someone approach it from more of a comedic angle. Mm-hmm. I feel like that could really be successful.
A dark comedy.
But
it'd have to be a dark comedy.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's so much material to do that within the book. But I feel like Kate Bush really kind of approached it that way, as more of like a almost like a modern love story where people are just like unhealthily obsessed with each other and they're just haunting each other. It's great. I love it. So everyone go listen to Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush.
Okay. Well, should we move on to our recommendations, or have we done enough recommendations?
You know what? Maybe we have done enough recommendations. Let's save our recs for going back in our pocket.
That sounds good, because I feel like we've gone over things we like and things we don't like and things people should watch if they haven't already watched or listened to.
Yeah. And if folks feel differently than we do about our opinions on these adaptations,
let us know.
If you want to share, if you want to share like your favorite or most hated or most interesting adaptations.
We're always open to like new opinions and new ideas. Like if you've seen one that we haven't said, or if you know of something that's really obscure and like we don't know it's a book yet, then please let us know so we can read this book.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so let's close it up then, Jocelyn. So the 6 pages of show notes will be on our website. Read&Write Podcast.com, and you can always hit us up on any of the socials under the same name, Read&Write Podcast. So catch us next Wednesday when we're going to talk about
writing routines. Know about those, Deb? Know anything about writing routines?
That is going to be like an hour-and-a-half episode. There's either that or it's going to be like 5 minutes. It's either going to be really long or really short.
Oh, yeah. Well, until then, stay safe.
Keep reading.
Keep writing.
And go do what you do best.
See you later, Deb.
Bye, Jocelyn.